This is Jordan from Spectral Wound, and this is What's Metal.
It's actually the first time that we feature you on the show. So I guess a lot of our listeners are sitting at home on their couch now. They don't know what to expect. They don't know the band. So maybe you can give us a brief introduction to the band.
It's Spectral Wound. It's just black metal. There's no post-rock. There's no anything fancy. It's just straight up black metal. That's all there is.
Yeah. So now that you say this, I mean, black metal is a very wide and broad genre. Mm-hmm. When you say straight black metal, to me it sounds very much like, Scandinavian influenced black metal, maybe mostly leaning towards the Swedish side of the style, maybe, with a few harmonies and melodies in there. But yeah. Correct me if you have a different opinion on this.
For me, it's always there's lots of different. When you say there's lots of different meanings within black metal, it's just, I think that's like nowadays there's lots of different ideas of what black metal is, and for me, it's wrong most of the times. And yeah, sure, there's like post-rock, there's all these other influences, sure they have like elements of black metal, but I think for this type of band, we just want to stay within the realm of like the old style of it, bringing forth like melodies, in the old Scandinavian days, not particularly Swedish, but more Norwegian or like Finnish or something like that. That's what I tend to focus on, of things that I think are just, I don't want any different kinds of influences there. I just want it to be black metal like it used to be and like it still should be. And there's tons of bands that do it well with like new styles and stuff. It just doesn't really speak to me. So I would rather just keep it more so focused centrally on the style that was there before, because there's tons of things that you can use from those old days of like bands like Dark Throne or Emperor or whatever, that, how can I say this? There's tons of things you can use from those old days that can make the music just as interesting now, and you don't have to develop all these different like progressive influences or anything like that. You can stay true to what the genre was before and just put your own spin on it and make it, I don't know, slightly different. But it's hard to describe exactly what I mean, because there's so many bands like Dark Throne rip-off bands out there that it kind of like, I feel like it got watered down after a while, and people are like, oh, you need to like reinvent the genre, and I don't think you necessarily need to reinvent it. You just need to do it better. Wow. Yeah, you just need to do it better. You don't have to take all these different influences. You can just take what was there and make black metal, That's it.
To be more concise, I would say yes, there is a Swedish influence, but more so, probably more Finnish for a lot of what we write.
Yeah. So that's interesting, actually. Maybe we come back to that point later on with the Finnish influence. So from your answer, I also hear that, there is already a lot of black metal out there,
yeah,
and it goes in all different directions, yeah, but you still feel the urge to enter that genre and give it your own touch in a way, right? So what's the motivation then behind the band? So was it like one person that said, yeah, let's do this now, or is it more like a team decision? Because I mean, you're adding to the pile in an innovative way, basically. Yeah. So like looking at it from the outside, one could always argue, okay, there's enough black metal already.
Totally.
So it must be some intrinsic motivation behind it, no?
When the band first started, it was myself, Jonah, Jordan, and our previous bandmate Mike, and Mike and I had played together in bands previously, but more in doom bands together. He had black metal side projects, but not a full band, and we decided we were tired of playing slow, and we only wanted to play fast, and that is basically how Spectral Wound started.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I really don't know how it happened. It just kept on going. We just wanted to start a black metal band, and we didn't really know what kind of route to take. And as we kept going and kept like writing songs, I think we kind of found something that worked. And in finding what the direction we wanted to go in, I've been kind of pushing for it to mostly just stay with like blinders on almost and be like, this is a black metal band, and that's all. Like, I don't want anything else involved in it. I just want it to be black metal, and that's kind of my take on it. But I feel like everyone else agrees in the band. I don't think I had to like push everyone into doing it. Everyone kind of felt the same way, where we're just like, we don't, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just be true to the genre.
So let's get back to the point of let's say like a Finnish influence. So when I think about Finnish black metal, the first things that pop up in my head would be Beherit, obviously, Impale Netherine, Barathrum maybe, but all of these bands don't sound like Spectral Wound at all.
No. I definitely love those bands, and there's a place for them for sure. And Beherit's one of my favorite bands, but yeah, it definitely sounds nothing like Spectral Wound. We were just going for more of the poppy kind of. I say poppy, but the other take on black metal, because I find that Beherit stuff is more so. Almost more so of the black and like death metal style that like got really popular in Canada, the Blasphemies and the Conquerors and stuff like that. And that stuff is awesome. I love that shit. But I'd rather focus on like old style metal like Mayhem or Dark Throne or something like that. But I find like the Finns have a cool spin on it where they do like so many bands like Behexen and Sargeis and Horna and stuff that take that style from Norway, but they put their own spin on it, which I think is super cool, and I really like a lot of the melodies they create and stuff. So,
it's extremely melodic, but still very menacing, and I think that's something that comes through in our band as well. There's a lot that's, I think, very. I mean, Jordan said poppy, which is funny because we're obviously not a pop black metal band, but it's catchy, it's catchy and it's highly melodic, but I don't think that compromises the intensity of it otherwise.
No, definitely not. No.
Ideally, I hope not.
Do you think you get the attention that you want?
What's that?
Do you think that you get the attention that you want to get?
I think so. I don't really know. I guess. I guess like I don't really know how to answer that. It's if people like it, that's sweet.
Yeah, I'm just curious because if I understood this correctly, initially you released your albums as tape releases, which obviously are not that widely distributed, and only the people with the tape deck probably would buy them, obviously, unless they're collectors. Yeah. So to me, that always feels a bit like, I mean, I have nothing against tape releases, fine, I still buy tapes and so on, but if the music is not available in some other format, to me, it feels like you want to kind of like cut yourself off from the rest in a way, or restrict yourself to a certain group of people. Or am I getting this wrong?
It was never that strategic for us. When we started, a tape just made sense, and it was self-released. And then from there, labels took interest. The first record was a small Greek black metal label, and then before we had even finished Infernal Decadence, we had interest from Vendetta. So that came out more or less simultaneously, on a local Montreal tape label, Les Fleurs de Mal, and on vinyl and CD via Vendetta. It was not. There's very little strategy. In the presentation of this band.
Yeah. It's just pure luck, honestly.
Okay.
Seriously.
And now that you mentioned Montreal, I think there's a lot going on now in terms of black metal. I mean, you can read about it in the print magazines in Germany even, but maybe you can give our listeners a little bit of an idea of what the scene is like there and which other bands might be interesting to have a listen to.
I think Montreal or Quebec in general is like hands down the best place for black metal in maybe North America right now. It's like huge. Then there's so many good bands. There's like, I don't know, even just Quebec City alone, which is a really small city, has like a dozen bands that are all amazing. There's like Cantique Le Pur, there's Delitaire, there's Forteresse, there's so many I can't even think of them right now. And I can't pronounce some of them either, so I won't. But and then in Montreal too, there's just like so many super dedicated people with labels, and so many dedicated people with even tape labels. The guy that released our tape, Les Fleurs du Mal, and there's a bunch of others too. And there's just like a bunch of people just dedicated to the style and keeping it what it was. Like keeping, like you spoke of like underground tape labels, and like a lot of people I feel like in Montreal are really pushing for that and pushing for the feeling that comes from black metal, whereas like you know a lot of them don't want to release records or whatever, or like even Bandcamps and stuff, and I do like that, even though we're on Bandcamp and stuff, but I do like the overall intense like dedication that they have to the genre and keeping it still what it was like in the 90s or something like that.
Yeah.
Some of us in the band, there are actually some internal disagreements about Jordan's devotion to backwards looking in black metal, but I think he's right that we do all agree that the sound that makes them, that we enjoy making, or that what comes out is something which is not trying to push the boundaries of the genre. But I personally don't necessarily see it as looking back only to some true original form, because obviously most of those bands don't even resemble each other musically. Like if you compare Darkthrone to Mayhem, to, you know, like to Emperor, to like, those bands sound completely different from one another. So I think that there is, I think that sometimes that appeal to origins can be it's kind of myth making, right? You have decided that after, you know, 97 it's no longer true black metal or whatever. You know, you set an arbitrary date, and I think that can be overly simplistic, but I think what we do all share is that, you know, we're not going to be adding a saxophone anytime soon, or like there's a sense of a sort of ferocity that's there in those early recordings, and that's what most inspires us, right? We still enjoy stuff that moves in different directions, but we have no interest in like pushing the boundaries of the genre.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned saxophone. There's just someone downstairs sound checking with a saxophone, yeah? So like this ambient band
They're
that
a
is...
noise band. They're a noise band. They can get away with it.
Yeah, all right. I think this tour now that takes you through Germany and a few other countries, is this your first time over in Europe now?
As a band, yes, as Spectral Wound. This is our first time touring here.
So what was the responses like so far? Attendances were okay?
It's totally amazing. It's like every show has been very, very good. So definitely exceeded my expectations by a lot. So it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah. So let's get back to the music. So, you know, instruments, compositions are one thing, lyrics are another. So I read through some of them and tried to understand them. So I think they have a certain, you know, poetic value, I would say. It's not just like the classical, you know, Satan here, Satan there, crucify this, you know, sacrifice that. I mean, there are these traditional lines in there, you can find them, but apparently there's more to it, yeah? So it's more like, to me at least, my interpretation would be more, it's more like looking at the world, trying to interpret certain things, but also maybe in a certain existentialist way or nihilistic way, maybe even. But maybe you can say a few things about that. I'm not sure who's writing the lyrics in the band.
Jonah,
is it you? Yeah.
The lyrics I think, are intentionally somewhat oblique and obscure. I find I'm not a Satanist, practicing or otherwise, and so writing just in kind of the traditional mode of Satan feels kind of limited for me. So I pick up on some of those themes, but am always sort of writing in conversation with those themes. There's I would say there's an existentialist bent, not necessarily a nihilist bent, because I think that nihilism is overconfident. I think that nihilism assumes too much understanding. I think to state in a sort of philosophical, programmatic way that all is nothing is kind of, I mean, why would we know that, right? At the same time, I do fundamentally believe in the meaninglessness of the universe, and I find that's a sort of challenging and at times liberatory and at times inspiring, but also at times constraining sort of way of approaching the world. And I think that runs through what I write about for the band.
Yeah. Would you say that you're like a spiritual person in a way?
I am absolutely not a spiritual person.
Okay. Because it's interesting. So but it's more like logic driven or facts driven. Your view of the world then.
I would also say it is not logic or fact driven.
Okay.
It is imminent. I believe that all things are contingent. I don't believe that there is an essential truth anywhere in the world, in the spiritual world or in the material world. I think that we make truth and we make meaning out of a kind of ongoing, difficult sort of struggle with the world that we live in.
I think I started thinking about this in this direction of existentialism and so on. Probably because like the final song of the current album is, to me, it feels a bit different from the rest of the material. And then I think it's called Imperial Thanatos, right? And it then ends with the line "Embrace your end" or "Embrace your death." I think one of the two. So I think that kind of like took me there because it felt to me like a climax, even though it's a kind of like the final line of the album. Is that intentional?
Yes.
Okay, short answer. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, so I raised my fist. Yeah, victory. Very good. The lyrics themselves, I mean, they are obviously required for the songs. But do you have this urge to express yourself in this way? So let's say if the band wouldn't be there and you wouldn't be writing the lyrics, would there be some other outlets that you would need to use for you personally to, I don't know, to formulate these thoughts in a way?
It certainly wouldn't be in the form of poetry, if that's what you're asking. No, I think that the lyrics come about are born out of an engagement with the music. I don't think it touches on a pre-existent need to fling my opinions out into the world or the void. The lyrics are very much also written as we write the music as well. It comes out of what the song is giving back to me, or like suggesting or producing.
Yeah. Okay. So neither the music nor the lyrics are, let's say superficial. Yeah. Which brings with it also the thought about how to present yourself in a live situation, right? I mean, you wouldn't go on stage, I don't know, with shorts basically, or and swimsuits or whatever, and make fun out of it. So I guess you discussed it as a band and put some thought into this. So this is a radio show, so people are not at the show now. So what would they be able to see when they see you live?
I don't know. This is kind of a funny answer, but I always just think of it as rock and roll. Like, when you get up and see Motorhead, they don't look particularly amazing. They're just like a rock band. Like, that's how I interpret this band. I'm just like Spectral Wound. When we get up there, we play black metal, but I just think of it as like rock and roll. It's like we're just getting up there. We don't dress up in like corpse paint or anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. We just look the part, as in like we play metal and that's it. Like, I don't want any extra like gimmicky things involved in it, really.
So the show's called What's Metal? Yeah. So what is that? What is metal in your opinion?
Yeah, it can be
rock and roll.
Yeah, it's fucking rock and roll, man.
Good.